Welcome to Anti-Fiction. This is a weekly nonfiction podcast where each week I, Christian Yates, pick a topic, and then I invite two guest hosts to come and talk about that topic. Andy is already laughing at me. I don't know what I've done. My guest host...
I was going to do the intro.
Oh, you were going to do the... Okay, Andy's going to do the intro.
No, I'm not now.
Okay. Anyway, so my guest hosts this week are Andy Mattingly.
That's me.
And Mike Yates.
What's up?
Our topic today is breaking news. Happy New Year, listeners. This is the first episode of 2019, and we thought we would ring it in style with some breaking news. So
2018.
These are all of the stories that you might have missed in light of, the UK banning memes and Diablo announcing their great mobile, or Blizzard announcing their great mobile Diablo game. And
Fallout 76's unbridled success.
Sure, the passing of Stan the Man Lee.
Rest in peace.
All of the big news stories that happened.
You guys are fucking dorks.
But
I'm sorry we have our priorities in the right place.
Yeah,
Things happened in the world this year.
I don't listen.
Yeah, they did, but those were the important ones.
Yeah.
We hit all the bullet points.
Everybody knows the important ones. Everybody knows that Donald Trump signed the wrong page. Like...
Wait, what?
With his Sharpie.
With a Sharpie.
God, fuck him. It's
Wait,
not.
what?
It's not that interesting. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Later.
Well, yeah.
No, I mean, I feel like I've heard the whole story. I just didn't know anything about
Oh, well,
it.
okay, yeah. Well, you throw that in as one of your stories
Okay.
then. Just tack it in there.
Or don't.
Down there.
That's probably for the best. Just don't even go there.
So the first story I've got here.
See, because I want to laugh today, and
Oh, well, we will laugh
yeah,
today.
and I don't want to.
Welcome to 2019, the year of laughter. Can we all agree? The year of laughter.
I think we all deserved a good year off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's fair.
We suffered enough.
Yeah.
And
so
that's just because we exist.
my first story is out of Monroe County, Georgia, where so a woman was arrested in. So her name is Dasha Fincher, and so she was arrested New Year's Eve 2016, right? So like December 31st, 2015. Right. That's when she was arrested. She was arrested because they stopped the car because they said that the windows were too dark. And so they got pulled over. And then she was riding in the car and had a bag of cotton candy, which the officers said was probably drugs. So she gets arrested for having this bag of drugs, in quotation marks, which they then do a roadside test and determine that it is definitely 100% methamphetamines. It's not. It was fucking cotton candy.
I mean, it's crystallized sugar. I mean,
she spent 3 months in jail, though, right?
Yeah.
So in March of 2017, they realized, oh, fuck, wait, it's not meth. It was cotton candy, like she said the whole time. The officers that administered the roadside drug test not only had no training in how to use the drug test, they had no training in how to identify street drugs.
They also had no training in being just normal humans
Evidently.
who can recognize
let's
cotton candy.
let's be fair for a second.
Have they never been to a fair, for Christ's sake?
The one very definitive way to tell is not one that they would have done. And
that is fair.
Straight up put it in your
fair.
mouth.
Or see cotton candy and recognize
Yeah, because
it.
here's the thing, though.
Like,
what if it had been meth and they just put it in their mouths?
Right, like, first of all, methamphetamines
It's supposed to be a little bit
typically
funnier than it was, but
little crunchier than cotton candy.
A little bit.
Little more crystalline. I mean, I've seen, like, glass candy, so maybe it was like cotton candy like
rock
that.
candy.
But, like, typically, yeah, but that's like rock candy. That's not cotton candy. So I don't know what in the fuck they were thinking.
I don't know. Technology's come a
But
long
not
way.
only that, but like the roadside test that they were using is called the NARC 2. I'm not making that up, right? It's
Electric Boogaloo.
Right. It's developed by shit. I had it right here. Searchy
shit.
Acquisitions, right? So Searchy Acquisitions has this test called the NARC-2, which has a history of false positives, right?
Just
So
like
they're
cops.
already using a shitty test that they're not even trained to use, this shitty test. So anyway, Miss Fincher is suing because she was held in jail for 3 months with a bond of $1 million. Yeah.
I mean, that fucks even being
Yeah.
innocent. You like she definitely lost her job.
Oh, for sure.
Definitely lost her house, apartment,
Yeah.
wherever she was living. If she had kids,
Yeah.
like they're gone.
Yeah. So
And
she is suing though.
Because those
for sure.
two men were idiots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So
I thought you said we were gonna laugh. This is
we are
I'm
gonna laugh,
pissed.
but I thought I'd start off with one that makes us
I
think.
said we were gonna laugh.
oh, that's right.
So
The
I'll hold up
electric-
my end of the bargain.
Narc 2 Electric Boogaloo was good.
Yeah, Narc 2 was good. Yeah, that it was much better than
It's
the first one.
it's a defense mechanism. So I use comedy to hide my crippling
So
depression.
that kind of like the lawsuit was reported. This was from November 28th. So I don't know exactly where it's at right now. It's only been a month. But hopefully she does see compensation. She's suing the deputies, the county, and the manufacturer of the drug test.
Awesome.
Yeah. So here's hoping that even if they settle out of court, the NARC 2 is no longer used ever. Maybe those two deputies
narc.
lose their jobs, and the county sets her the fuck up for life. Good luck, Miss Fincher.
What a name, too.
Yeah, right.
What adventure?
Misadventure. It will Fincher. Misadventure.
Fincher. Damn
yeah.
it. There goes my joke.
Misadventure. Yeah.
I heard Fincher.
So my
I
next
like what I said
story
better, though.
comes from December 11th of this year in L.A. So I don't know, Michael. You might be familiar with this guy, just because you have a lot of music
Approximate knowledge on many things.
Yeah. Well, you have approximate music knowledge, right?
Okay.
So this is a guy named Robin DiMaggio. He is a drummer who has worked as a session musician and a producer for like a shitload of artists. He's worked with Paul Simon, Dr. Dre,
the
Diana
name
Ross.
doesn't sound familiar, but
Mhm.
if he's just the way you
He's
describe
very
it,
prolific.
I've probably heard his work somewhere or
Yeah,
another.
I mean, for sure. I don't care like what genre you listen to. You've probably heard something that he's either performed drums for or has produced. He's worked with a lot of different artists. He was also part of Arsenio Hall's house band for his TV show. Also the musical director for the United Nations. He was arrested for embezzling $750,000 from an overseas charity concert for homeless children. We're not getting to the funny stories. I see that look, Andy. We're getting to them, all right? So
I'm sorely disappointed.
So basically, he agrees to help this charity called Peace for You, Peace for Me Foundation, and they're organizing a concert in Bulgaria to benefit homeless children. And instead of putting the money in escrow to pay the artists involved in the concert, Robin DiMaggio used it to pay personal expenses, including cars and credit card debt, and to buy his ex-wife a house.
While she was his ex-wife.
While she was his ex-wife. The house itself cost $251,370. And then he also used $150. He wired that directly to a bank account in the name of his company, which is called DiMagic Entertainment, which is kind of a good name. If your last name's DiMaggio, you should have a company called DiMagic. That's kind of good. But everything else he's done is bad.
Well, I mean, everything else was good except for the one thing.
That's fair.
There was one glaring.
Wait, if this is the
glaring
first
issue.
time he's done it, I mean, like, I don't know that you just wake up one day and you're like, I'm gonna embezzle $750,000. Like, I don't think that just comes to you one day.
But I mean,
I think
consider
that
that
if
the
we
one-
looked
the same
into it,
crime.
he's
It's
done
just,
some more shady shit.
I feel like I consider that the same crime, even if it takes place. So, like, I mean, Bernie Madoff did one thing, but he did it a lot.
Well, sure,
for
yeah.
over a long period.
But like, what I'm saying is that maybe Robin DiMaggio, like, in his prolific career of being a
Embezzled from
producer,
different
embezzled
charities?
from other
Okay,
places
well, that would
too.
be something different.
Yeah. But anyway, so if convicted, he could face 20 years in prison. So, hope you're rot, Robin DiMaggio. That's a charity for homeless children. Fuck. Listen, if listeners, if you've ever embezzled, I don't care that much.
Steal from the rich.
Steal from not a charity that benefits homeless children.
Steal
Like,
from the chain supermarket you work for.
Yeah, if you're gonna embezzle from a charity, listen to our last episode.
Steal from the Salvation Army.
Right?
Stop
Steal
stealing kids.
steal from one of the
Oxfam.
shitty charities.
Steal from Oxfam.
Yeah. Steal from a shitty charity. That's what I'm saying.
Apparently they got plenty of money.
Yeah, they got fuckloads of money. So my next story, Andy showed me this story on a Facebook post, I think. But so there was a fugitive that sees a wanted post of himself, and then agrees to turn himself in, but with a twist. So on, let me see here. So on December the 5th of this year, the Richland Police Department in Washington State posted a call out for information on 38-year-old Anthony Akers.
That's my dude.
Yeah, they put this on Facebook for like they do a thing every Wednesday, I guess, called Wanted Wednesday, where they put at-large criminals up on the Facebook, and it's like, if you've got information, here's the number, give us a call. But so anyway, they put this picture of him up on there, and they say, if you've got any information, give us a call. And then 5 hours later, Anthony Akers responded on Facebook and said, calm down, I'm going to turn myself in. But the next day, there was no sign of him, and so they sent him a direct message that said, hey, Anthony, we haven't seen you yet. Our business hours are 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. Of course, if you need a ride, you can call non-emergency, and we will pick you up. So they went back and forth like this for a week. Like, yep, I'll be there, don't worry about it. He said, thank you, tying up a couple loose ends since I will probably be in there for a month. Should be there in the next 48 hours. And he ghosted them again. So they said, is it us? We waited, but you didn't show. The weekend came and went. We are beginning to think you're not coming. So he sends a longer, heartfelt note that reads, Dear RPD, it's not you, it's me. I obviously have commitment issues. I apologize for standing you up, but let me make it up to you. I will be there no later than lunchtime tomorrow. I know you have no reason to believe me after what I did to you, but I promise that if I don't make it on my own by lunchtime tomorrow, I will call for a ride to assist me with my commitment issues. Thank you in advance for your response. If you are patiently giving me another chance with us, I know I don't deserve it. P.S. You're beautiful. And then, I'm sorry. So I said it was December 5th, but it was actually the week prior, right? So this was the end of November that this was happening. But on December 4th, then, he arrives at the department's doorstep and pushes the buzzer with a selfie and, sends it to them on Facebook. And then, they arrested him. And then he posts one last thing before they book him, and it just says, see you in a month. Cheers, Anthony Akers. It's a little bit wholesome.
Fucking legend.
Right, fucking what a legend. So the next story I've got here comes from the U.S. Embassy in Australia, which issued an apology for an invitation to a cat pajama jam featuring a photo of a cat dressed as the Cookie Monster.
I would so aggressively go to that.
Right. So they sent this out.
I don't care who's throwing it. I don't care if I'm invited. I will be there.
So they sent out an invitation by email, and apparently it went just to everybody in the U.S. Embassy in Australia. So it was just sort of an accidental email sent. Probably it was meant to go to somebody personally, like somebody's personal email, and it went to company-wide. And, obviously the U.S. Embassy was not invited to the Cat Pajama Jam, so they rescinded all of the invitations. So,
Wow, that's more rude.
you
You really just got to pretend like you intended to invite all those people and get a bigger venue.
yeah.
That's the only way to throw a party at that point. If you don't know that, then you shouldn't be throwing cat pajama parties.
So they don't actually know where it came from, but it just appeared in basically in everybody's inbox. So I don't even. Yeah, the only they did, I guess, NPR is where I'm getting this story from, and NPR did like a reverse Google image search, and the only thing that they could trace it back to was a Pinterest page called Cats/Dress Up. So,
wow, why am I not following that board?
That's a good question.
Love when cats dress
I'm
like
sure
people.
it's it's probably cats dressed up like all kinds of stuff, including the Cookie Monster. The
Adorable.
particular picture was of a cat in a Cookie Monster onesie with a bowl of cookies.
God.
So
Oh, I just know it's cute and I haven't even seen it yet.
So my last story for the breaking news section is about an inmate who escaped from authorities in Greenup, Kentucky, and then he tried to hitchhike along the highway, right? So he was being transported to face charges in another county, and he told the officer that his handcuffs were too tight. So like an idiot, the officer pulls over and undoes one handcuff, after which I'm sorry, what's the guy's name? Where'd it go? Alan Lewis. So he undoes one of Alan Lewis's handcuffs like an idiot, and then the guy struggles with him and gets free, and then runs out of the transport vehicle and to freedom. Yay! He gets to the highway, he flags down a car, and it turns out that it was a campus officer at Morehead State University who saw the handcuffs hanging from his wrists, and he was taken immediately back to jail and now also faces an escape charge. So, good job there, Alan Lewis.
Well, he tried. Yeah,
He did. He gave it the old college try, and
The old college try. He got picked up.
yeah, he got
campus.
college police. Yeah.
uh,
But yeah, so those are some of the stories that you may have missed in 2018. Let's take it over to Andy. Andy, you got some stories that the listeners may have missed in light of all of the other probably more important breaking news.
yeah, I have a couple actually funny ones.
Oh, okay. So mine weren't funny, is what you're saying. That's fine.
That's what I'm saying. So the first headline is Fajita Heist. Texas man sentenced to 50 years for stealing $1.2 million worth of food.
Shit! That's a fuckload of fajitas.
Yeah. So his name still is Gilberto Escamilla. And he worked for...
He had it legally changed to the Fajita Bandit.
yeah. And he worked for the Darrell B. Hester Juvenile Detention Center in San Benito, Texas. The crime actually happened in August of 2017. The trial's going on.
Oh, well, that's fine.
But my bad. This article's from April 23rd, 2018. So basically, it was discovered that he had been placing orders for fajitas using county funds as if he were buying them for the juvenile detention center. But then he was keeping them and selling them on the side. He was selling fajitas for profit.
At a 100% markup.
Yeah.
No
So
wholesale
like
fajitas for you.
Normal price then.
Yeah.
So he had actually been doing that since December of 2008 and was not caught until August of
Holy
2017. So that's how they came up with the $1.2 million number.
Jesus, fuck.
Which is just so many fajitas.
Yeah, that's a lot. I hope he made so much money off of it, though. That's a nice side hustle.
Yeah, that's true. He was fined a good amount, though, so we'll see.
$1.2 million, I imagine.
So the reason that they found out was because Let me actually just start with this. There's a quote from him saying, "It was selfish. It started out small and got bigger and out of control," which is how all these shenanigans
Right.
go. You think you're just stealing a little bit of fajita meat,
Right.
and
I had a friend who was like,
suddenly
I will
it's
give you
9
$50
years
for some
later.
fajitas.
yeah. Suddenly it's 9 years later, and the detention center gets a call, just for confirmation of the delivery of 800 pounds of fajitas.
What?
To which they were like, "We don't serve fajitas to the juvenile detention center at all. So that's only even food that's like served to the adults in a different detention center." So they were like,
Right.
"We shouldn't have gotten it anyway." And then they were like, that's just untrue because we've been delivering these to you for 9 years.
For 9 years. So one wrong person picks up the phone one day, and the whole plan unravels.
Yeah, it's just that easy. So of course Escamilla was both fired and arrested. And then once his house was searched, they found just so many packages of fajitas in his refrigerator. So he actually got sentenced in 2018. And it was like April 23rd, I think. And he did get a plea bargain because he had, it just was, what's the word? He worked with them.
Oh, like made a deal or whatever.
No,
like,
yeah. He made a plea deal, but like just
plea bargain.
Yeah,
Like,
that's not the word I'm looking for.
I don't know what we're looking for. The listeners probably know, and it's driving them crazy.
It's
right
driving
now.
me crazy right now. I don't know. He worked with them, so
Negotiated.
No,
okay.
I'll let you know when I think of it, because I will probably
Just
when
shout it
Mike's-
out.
Yeah, when Mike's doing his thing, I'm
Yeah.
gonna be like, "Oh, this is what I was thinking." Yeah. So he made a plea deal with them, but ended up he was still sentenced to, or his crime was still considered a first-degree felony, which can allow for a sentence up to 99 years.
Holy shit!
But not 100.
But not 100.
Maybe if you
What do you
stole
have to do to get that nice even 100?
$2 million worth of fajitas.
So he actually was sentenced to 50 years, which is
Shit.
interesting because since he was a public servant, that actually makes the punishment, like the crime is more severe if you're working as a public servant.
Right. Okay.
When you commit the crime. But he still, rather than getting sentenced to 99 years, got 50 years. He was ordered to pay back the $1,251,578.72, which was the cost of the fajitas, plus an additional fine of $10,000, which is actually the maximum fine for that crime.
Holy
So
shit!
hopefully he wasn't just spending all that money as he was making it, because
Right.
he got to pay it back now.
That's fucking insane. That is the heist of the century.
I know. I think at some point you got to quit while you're ahead.
Probably. Yeah. I maybe around the $500,000 mark.
In 9 years,
Looking
that's
back
too
and being
long.
like, where am I going with this?
Yeah. You're suddenly ordering 800 pounds of food. Like,
Right, and the
no one's
whole
gonna notice.
plan hinges on the fact that the orders never get screwed up.
Yeah.
Which, if
The
you've
fact that it didn't
ever
for 9 years.
ordered like food in
Anything.
bulk, like the fact that it didn't fuck up in 9
9
years
years.
is incredible.
Yeah. So my next article is from May of 2018. The headline is Tiger at Prom? Miami school faces backlash for bringing exotic animal to dance.
What the fuck?
Yeah. So they. I'm so sorry.
So what, was Mike Tyson at this prom?
Nah, he's in Las Vegas.
No, that's fair.
If I learned anything from watching The Hangover, that was it.
It's not funny. That tiger did not deserve this. But it's just outrageous that they even thought it was a good idea. But basically, the school in Miami, had a jungle-themed prom,
And so they fucking...
and part of their decorations included a live caged tiger.
Well, at least it wasn't like just on a leash. Like, at least they had it.
Yeah, but they caged a tiger.
That is true. Those things need to roam free and eat Miami
And
high school
eat
students.
Catholic school boys.
Yeah.
Obviously.
That's like primarily their diet, I believe, is Catholic schoolboys.
I think so.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I thought I'd be able to keep it together, but I really can't. So obviously this was on Snapchat and shit.
Well, sure, yeah. I mean,
these kids showed up to prom and there's a fucking
there's
tiger.
a fucking tiger.
And so, like, immediately people are pissed off that this tiger is being forced to sit in a cage for their entertainment. But it actually turned out that the tiger was not the only animal at the prom.
Oh, shit.
There was also a lemur, a parrot, and a fox. Those ones students were able to pose with for pictures. Yeah, as if they were props and not people. Or no, I'm sorry, not.
Nope, it's
animals are
ruined.
people too.
It's
no,
ruined.
I meant I was reading.
Andy is actually a founding member of PETA.
The next thing I was gonna say was PETA said something.
Oh yeah, they would have had a field day.
Yeah,
with
so
this.
I was reading the word people.
Eating tasty animals.
As if they were not props and. Or as if they were props and not sentient creatures is what I was gonna say. But then I just got mad that PETA popped up. It's also fuck PETA.
Fuck PETA.
Right.
People
Animals
for the
delicious.
ethical treatments of animals is what they.
Here's a fun fact I just made up. PETA has actually killed more animals since its founding than
That's
any
actually
animal
true.
ever
That's
has
probably
been
very
killed.
No, that
Close
actually is true because they had a euthanization.
Yeah, that is true.
A euthanization campaign going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's like
Oh, they've
more,
killed lots and
It's
lots
more
of animals.
ethical for these animals to die than to be treated like as like.
It's
Yeah.
made up that they've
Sentient
killed more
sentient.
animals than any other organization.
like
That's
people.
made up. But like, yeah, they have killed shitloads of animals.
Yeah, because I mean, I guess technically speaking, there's like hunting organizations, and that was their express purpose at one point. But
Was to kill animals. Yeah.
Just to kill animals. Yeah. It works that way. But anyways, keep going with your story.
So, in an email, the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission said the FWC is aware of the video taken at Christopher Columbus High School prom and is looking into the incident to determine if any violation of Florida's captive wildlife rules took place during this incident. Provided all rules and regulations are followed, exhibition of wildlife at public events is not prohibited by Florida law.
So as long as they had all their permits in order,
Then they're allowed to have
they're
a
allowed
tiger.
to put a fucking tiger in a cage. Except for, like, none of the other wild animals were in cages because they were props
And not people.
and not people.
I'm always saying some dumb shit. I can't read and talk at the same time. It's too hard. So the principal also did that sort of half-assed apology that people
Right.
do in the public,
Yeah.
where he says, we recognize this decision has offended some, and for that we apologize. So, like, I don't know. That's not
Sorry
even what
you're
you should-
offended.
Yeah, that's
Sorry
not what
you-
you're supposed to be
sorry you
sorry
were
about,
offended.
but whatever.
Sorry we took a magnificent, majestic creature and shoved it into a box.
Yeah, to fucking, I don't know, whatever, fuck them. But I think the funniest part of that is the FWC being like, we'll see if they did anything
Yeah.
wrong.
I mean,
But it's looking like they
I
did.
mean, they applied for they filed in triplicate. I
They
don't
filled
understand.
out all the paperwork to have
We
a
thought it
live
was a stupid
tiger.
idea, but they had everything in order.
Yeah, I don't know that just tickled me so much. Just imagine, like,
Right.
how many people that had to go through to get that approved, and everybody was like, yeah, this is a good idea.
Right. Like the amount of like legal hoops that you have to jump through, I imagine. And like
have
the
a tiger
entire
at
school
prom.
board had to sign off on it, and
Yeah.
like not one member was like, "Do you think maybe
We shouldn't have wild animals at a prom.
like I mean, cuz you know a tiger's real strong."
Also, I know me at prom age, and I would have stolen that lemur.
Yeah.
For
oh,
sure.
for fucking sure.
100% I would have
Yeah.
left with that lemur. I mean, it's just outrageous. All right, that gets me into my next quote. Suspected shark thief in San Antonio aquarium heist charged with felony robbery.
All right. Okay. So you got a couple of heists here, really great heists.
So the horn shark, whose name is Miss Helen, which is fucking adorable,
Okay.
is alive and well.
Oh, good.
But so a man named Anthony Sinclair Shannon was arrested and charged with felony theft of property valued at $2,500 to less than $30,000 for the heist of Miss Helen, a horn shark. I think I said San Antonio Aquarium. So The security video that was released after he was arrested showed 3 people walking through the aquarium while pushing a baby carriage. Then when the attendant at the interactive touch pool was busy with other visitors, they picked it up and put it in the baby carriage and left it. It was just that
They wheel it
easy.
out, and like the security guard on the way out's like, "Damn, that's an ugly ass baby."
So they slipped, or I'm sorry, they slipped it into the baby carriage. Then they went into a room, emptied out a bucket. So then they put her into the bucket, put the bucket into the stroller, and then ran back out of the room and into the parking lot and drove away.
Yep.
Isn't that amazing?
For
It's
what
the perfect-
purpose?
It's the
Oh,
perfect crime.
I'm getting there.
Oh, okay, all right. They did have motive.
Yeah, they had motive.
The shark killed their family, and this was their revenge.
Quite the opposite.
Oh man.
So the man arrested was actually like an avid collector of marine life.
Okay.
So they said when this is a quote from the police. When we got into the garage and into the house, it looked like almost a mock-up of here, he said, referring to the aquarium. He had a lot of different marine animals in his home. Very much knew what he was doing. We don't think he was planning on selling it. He didn't say that, but from the look at the other animals there, he more than likely it was something that he wanted. So, dude just had a lot of marine life and was super into it. The best part of this story is when they were like they caught him pretty quickly just by looking at his car and following
Right.
his car to his house. But the best part of his story is that the aquarium's assistant director of husbandry, her name is Jamie Shank. She told investigators that she suspected the man who stole Miss Helen visited the aquarium about a month prior to the heist and pretended to be an employee for Instant Ocean, which is the company that supplies that aquarium with salt. So he showed up and offered to do.
He cased the joint.
He offered to do salt and water testing for the exhibits because the company had sent out bad batches of salt, and so she had, or the people on duty, I guess not necessarily her, people on duty had informed him that they were not experiencing any issues with their systems, but let him do the test just in case.
Mm-hmm.
So he spent hours with Jamie Shank about a month before the heist, collecting samples from the tanks and like doing testing on the water.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously this was just a way to get behind the scenes, like to see how they could how to steal the
Right.
animal and like the best way to get out of it.
I mean, he rolls out the blueprints of the aquarium. All right, there's
We need a
cameras
baby
here,
carriage.
here, and here.
We need a
It's
baby
going to take
carriage.
at least 3 people.
It's classic. It's never failed before.
So yeah, his reasoning was that these like specific kind of sharks are kept as pets all over the world by people who enjoy marine animals, but they can cost between $1,000 and $2,000. So they're mad expensive.
Yeah. I mean, it's no $1.2 million in fajitas.
Right. But it's still pretty expensive. The biggest thing for the aquarium is they were worried that she was going to, die in all the transportation or not being kept well because they could not have known that he was a marine animal aficionado.
Right.
So they were very worried that she was going to die, but she actually was fine. She lived through the whole thing.
Oh, that's good. That's
Well,
nice
good.
and wholesome.
Yeah.
Jesus Christ. Don't steal animals. What are
Don't
you, PETA?
steal living
Yeah.
creatures in general. So that
Yeah.
extends to people. Don't steal people.
Yeah. Also people, yeah.
Avoid stealing viruses and bacteria.
For sure, yeah.
Because that
you don't-
usually ends up
you don't
going
want
very
that.
poorly.
Yeah.
If there's any case against stealing animals, it's the beginning of 28 Days Later.
Yes.
That is a good reason not to do that because
Yeah.
you might accidentally unleash the rage zombie virus.
That is true. Yeah.
What?
In that movie,
28 Days Later.
a bunch of like animal activists like break into a lab and bust out a bunch of monkeys, but the monkeys were injected with the virus that made zombies, and then they bite the people, and then the people turn into zombies, and then the whole world turns into zombies, and then Cillian Murphy has to
Awake from a coma, naked,
Yeah.
completely naked, full frontal,
Everybody was fine with it though.
And then they reversed it in 28 days. Did it take 28 days to
It
spread
took
to the whole
28
of the
days for him to
world?
wake up from his coma.
I thought it
Oh.
took 28 days for everything to go to shit.
Yeah, but it's also
Is it like the number 23 where 28 keeps popping up?
Well,
I
in the
guess. I
sequel,
don't know.
28 weeks later, where it's
Oh.
literally
Ooh.
28 weeks after the initial outbreak,
yeah.
and you think they've got things under control, but spoilers, they don't.
Oh, God.
Well, they do, but then they don't.
Yeah.
It's a whole thing.
Anyway,
What is the name of that movie?
28 days later.
No, it's not the end of my question. Where the front of it, I think it's like, it's the day after tomorrow. Is that where
is
New York is like
yeah.
covered in snow?
Discovers,
Yeah.
yes, day
Okay,
after
I think I
tomorrow.
mixed those two up a lot because
Yeah.
that's what I thought you guys
Day
were
After
talking
Tomorrow.
about, and I was trying to figure out how an
Completely
ice age.
different.
I was like, how is an ice age and a stealing an animal related?
Oh, see, because the no, I got nothing.
Ice
No,
Age
I-
zombies.
Ice age zombies. All right,
Yeah.
now we know. Okay, so I have one
Animal
last
activists
story.
broke in and tried to save Sid and yeah, and fucking
A Yeti.
Diego and Manny.
Okay, so my last story here is from October of 2018. This headline isn't as funny. It pretty much spoils the whole story. Man rescued after 2 days at bottom of mine shaft was searching for gold. So a man named John Wadle, I think is how you say it,
That
who
sounds right
is
to me.
from Arizona, went down a 100-foot deep mine shaft, which I believe was on his property, but like not something that he, had been down before. I think it was just
Okay.
on his property. He decided to go down it to look for metal. I mean, the dude was pretty smart though. When he went down it and told a close friend where he was going and where he was going to be,
Right.
and said, if I'm not home by Tuesday, come look for me. So his friend waited until Wednesday.
What the? You had one job.
So on
One job.
Wednesday he had still not come back. So he went and looked at the exact. I mean, this is like pretty anticlimactic. So that he went and looked at the place that Wadle told him was going to be, and he said, just as I pulled up in the truck, I could hear him hollering.
Bob, God damn it!
I told you yesterday. So he found where the area where he was, and then dropped water down to him, and then went to where he could get some self-service, called 911. It took them 5 hours to remove him from the shaft.
So it took them 37 minutes.
Right. No, it did take them a good amount of
And
time.
it was then that they realized there was a conveniently placed ladder in the mine shaft the entire time.
Turns
Wouldn't
out
have
that's how the
been-
miners got out of the mine
Yeah.
shaft when they used to use it.
Wouldn't have been super helpful because also I don't think it was there because he was like propelling down and it broke.
Oh, okay.
And so he actually fell between 50 and 60 feet.
Oh, wow.
Shit.
Yeah. Broke both of his legs.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, never mind.
And then was in surgery for most of the next day. Most of Thursday, he was in surgery. Just a couple interesting things here. While he was down there, he had to kill 3 rattlesnakes to keep them from biting him.
Holy shit.
And also,
Fucking legend.
both of his knees are artificial. So obviously he had to get that fixed. But like, dude was just propelling down a 100-foot deep mine shaft with like artificial knees. I mean, he was just killing it. He's just living his fucking best life.
Yeah.
Out there in the deserts of
He's
Arizona.
doing-
He's doing,
Doing what he
the fuck
wants to do.
when he wants. That is
Yeah.
that is pretty dope.
Killer. So I mean, I was all about it.
And then like fucking Bear Grylls, he's
Yeah.
strangling rattlesnakes
I-
with his
right.
bare
With
hands.
broken legs.
With his
2
broken-
broken
yeah.
legs. Yeah.
That's incredible.
Please tell me he ate the rattlesnakes.
It did not say.
I'm gonna assume. That's
I mean,
my
I
headcanon.
wouldn't just
That's
because
that's my headcanon then.
I know that it's probably not, but I'm afraid that the meat has the venom in it.
Well,
That's-
I
yeah,
was
that's not how venom works
That's
at all.
not how it works. But also, I don't know that he could have cooked it.
No, raw.
Yeah. So you would have had to have eaten raw
Gone raw.
snake. I would.
Hey,
Well, I mean-
if it comes down to eating the raw snake or dying,
Yeah, it might not be up to FDA standards, but
I
Oh, no.
certainly wouldn't sell it in a Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Listen, I
But-
would probably die. I'm not gonna lie to you. I can't eat that weird shit. Yeah, no, I couldn't do it. But I just like how he was fucking like, I got a plan in case something goes wrong. Something
Right.
went wrong, like minor hiccup in the plan, and that his friend didn't take it seriously
Right.
enough. But now they know.
I haven't seen him for a couple of what is
What was
today?
he doing?
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Oh,
Oh,
God.
fuck.
Yeah.
I just love the fact that he's like, all right, come look for me in a few days if I'm not back. Immediately, everything goes wrong and he breaks his leg.
Yeah. Didn't even make it all the way down.
Yeah, it's like, I didn't even get to the mine shaft, really, before everything
His plan
went
was
wrong.
solid. His rope was not.
The ground was solid.
And now his legs are not.
So, Mike, what stories have you brought with
I've
you?
got a couple. One I'll just go over real quick because it's mostly video related, and I'll tell you where you can
Right.
find
Well,
it.
this show is not great for video.
So if anyone is so inclined, I'll give a slight synopsis of what happens in the video and some funny quotes that I found from the story, and then you can go look it up yourself.
Right. Go watch a video.
Apparently that video went viral a little bit, but I never saw it, so we'll see. If you've seen it before, that's cool. But we're not going to start with that one. We're going to start with a woman who was charged with fake witchcraft days before Canada scraps the old law against it. So this story, all these stories, by the way, I'm getting are from the Strange News section of NPR's website. So this story was posted December 19th. So last week, so 2 weeks from now, 2 weeks ago, I guess. We're dating this
2
episode.
weeks
It
from
is
now.
December 22nd.
2
currently.
weeks in the future, this is going to happen.
So this will have taken, by
Welcome
the
to
time this
early
airs,
edition.
it'll have probably been about a month ago.
Okay.
let's say. So last week, Canada repealed a number of so-called zombie laws that remained on the books after they were found to be unconstitutional, redundant, or just too old and weird.
Yep.
One law that was scrubbed was Section 365 of the Canadian Criminal Code, which is the law that made it illegal to practice fake witchcraft.
Yeah. So what does it mean, fake witchcraft?
Not real witchcraft.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
like, I mean, how witchcraft used to be a thing. Basically, what this law says...
You can't impersonate a witch.
Yeah,
that
because,
what
I mean,
it's saying?
essentially, that's just...
I
The
think that's what
reason
it
why is like, it's essentially redundant because, like, don't be a con artist, essentially.
Yeah.
is
Oh,
what the
okay.
law
Okay, I
is.
got you. I got
The
you.
law states everyone who fraudulently pretends to exercise or to use any kind of witchcraft, sorcery, enchantment, or conjuration, B, undertakes for a consideration to tell fortunes, or C, pretends from their knowledge or skill of the occult or crafty science to discover where or in what manner anything that is supposed to have been stolen or lost may be found. Yeah, it's just basically...
The psych probably wasn't a
Don't
big
pretend
deal
to be
in Canada.
So at this point, then, before they repealed this law, you couldn't impersonate police and military, members of the clergy, and witches.
pretty much.
Those were all. You can't do that.
Yeah, despite the federal government's labeling that the law as archaic and slated for erasure, an Ontario woman was charged last week with fraudulent witchcraft, fortune-telling specifically, just 2 days before the law was eliminated. Police in the small city of Timmins told the North Bay Nugget that allegedly a local woman who maintains an alias and holds herself out to be a self-proclaimed spiritualist, medium, and clairvoyant attempted to elicit funds from a Timmins resident in return for protection from some sort of potential danger likely to occur to her family. The accused 33-year-old Tiffany Butch goes by the nickname White Witch of the North. But
That's
she says,
copyrighted.
But she
That's
says
copyrighted.
that's a misnomer.
Because she's actually purple.
Well, she quotes, people proclaim me a witch here and gave me a nickname, but I'm not a witch. I'm a psychic. A spokesperson for the Timmins police told the broadcaster that they used the most applicable laws in the books at the time of the alleged offense. The Washington Post reported in October when 2 other Ontario women were charged with posing as witches. Which I guess is some real big problem.
Evidently, like they had a whole law against it. There've been 3 fucking arrests in the last year.
2018.
So apparently, a person convicted of the crime faces up to 6 months in prison or a $2,000 fine, or both.
Shit.
That's so harsh.
Hey, but now you can
That's-
pretend to
let's be
practice
honest,
witchcraft all you want. in
That's
Canada.
actually pretty light considering you're a con artist.
That is true. Yeah. If you
Remember the other con artists we were talking about?
If
They
you're-
got my guy got fucking killed.
that is true. Yeah. So did mine.
Yeah, Soapy Smith. Yours got killed by the law,
Yeah.
and all he did was forge like
Coins.
coins.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah. But so yeah,
Now,
like
granted,
it's
it
like
was a lot of
you
coins.
can practice witchcraft and be a witch. Just don't if you're not doing it, don't pretend to do it.
Well, no,
Yeah,
I'm pretty
I think
sure that one
Don't be
Is
a
that a
is
separate-
still
liar.
illegal. It's just by punishment of death, right? Because that's how those worked. Anyways,
Probably they drown 'em in a
Section
lake.
365 has been law in Canada since 1892. It originated in a British statute from 1735
Yep.
that repealed an earlier British law classifying witchcraft as a felony after centuries of witch hunts in early modern Europe. The 1735 repeal reserved a minor punishment for cheats and rogues pretending to practice witchcraft, according to a paper in the Marquette Law Review. The law remained unchanged in Canada over the centuries, but for the addition of the word fraudulently in the 1950s. Tiffany Butch has been summoned to appear in court next month. The CBC reports she denies the allegations and believes she was framed by other psychics.
You know,
Didn't see that one coming.
right? I was gonna say, like, shouldn't she have foreseen that?
Maybe she did, but like
Maybe the rule of being a psychic is you can't look at your own future.
Well,
or
didn't
it's
she
like,
say that wasn't she seeking help for danger? Or she said there was danger coming to her family.
someone else.
Oh,
That's what
Yeah,
she was
that-
trying to
that's
get
what
someone
she
to
was
pay
arrested
them
for.
to like put some
Oh,
sort of
okay.
ward
I
up
see
so that
what
way
you're
their
saying.
family would be safe.
Maybe she just misread the sign and the danger was coming to her.
Yeah.
Maybe it's like that So Raven where she's actually the cause of half the
Sick
things
reference,
she sees.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
ironic. If you just let things happen, what you saw
Right.
never would have
Would
come
happen.
to pass.
She
Okay.
never learned that lesson in that show either. Every single time.
Yeah, every time.
Yeah. I don't know.
Okay, so we'll move on to my next story. This one's from September. It's about a novelist who penned "How to Murder Your Husband" essay, charged with murdering her husband.
That's not funny. I'm sorry. Murder's not
So
funny.
this
This is
article-
just highly ironic.
This article starts out with a very good opening line. How do you get away with murder? Maybe don't write a blog post about getting away with murder. So last week, from September, so early September, Portland police arrested 68-year-old Nancy Crampton Brophy, charged with the murder of her 63-year-old husband, Chef Daniel Brophy. So Crampton Brophy, Nancy, we will call her, is a self-published author of romantic suspense novels.
Oh my god.
Oh, boy. All right.
Yeah. So she does
Aren't
all
those
this
just sexy mysteries?
pretty much.
Okay.
You want me to read how it's described?
Yes, please.
She is a self-published author of romantic suspense novels, many featuring chiseled ex-Navy SEALs.
Yep.
Books with rugged men, strong women, and a good story, she touted on her website. So this is her own review of her own material.
Known for her critically acclaimed short story, Who Fucked Virginia Smith?
Yeah. So she writes and publishes her own romantic suspense novels, but in
Jesus Christ.
2011, for a blog called C. Jane Publish, Nancy wrote an essay titled "How to Murder Your Husband," which the NPR article says the post is no longer public. However, the hyperlink in their own article says otherwise because I've pulled it up right here.
Oh,
You
Amazing.
can actually get to you can actually get to the article still.
so if you're looking
So if you're
for
looking to,
resources on
on
if
how to
you're
kill your
planning to kill
husband,
your husband, this is a good resource for
and
you.
actually there's some
It worked
good
for
tips.
this woman.
In fact, there's actually some good tips in there for just how to kill anyone.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah.
Yeah, so
How not to leave your prints on the murder weapon.
she says, as a romantic suspense writer, I spend a lot of time thinking about murder and consequently about police procedure, the Post read. After all, if the murder is supposed to set me free, I certainly don't want to spend any time in jail. And let me say clearly for the record, I don't like jumpsuits and orange isn't my color. The essay described a range of possible motives for murdering a husband, ranging from avoiding the financial hit of a divorce to infidelity by a lying, cheating bastard, and even the possibility that the wife is a professional contract killer and just so happens to have a contract on her own husband.
I wonder
Mr. and
which one
Mrs.
of
Smith
those,
style.
Yeah.
applied to her.
I'm gonna go with
The first two.
The first two.
probably
Obviously.
she's not a contract.
Probably
killer,
the
yeah.
first one at least, for sure. But even that one, I don't really understand, given the other information in the story. It also weighed the pros and cons of different methods, where she says guns, they're loud, messy, and require some skill. Knives, really close up and personal, and there's blood everywhere. Ew.
Ew.
She warned against committing a crime of passion. Most of the time, there is a trail that leads directly to you. Each type of murder leaves clues. A crime of passion does not look like a stranger was involved. So the couple had been married for 27 years, according to the Oregonian. Argonian is something a little different.
It is.
They
yeah.
are the lizard people from the Elder Scrolls universe. And they were reportedly inseparable. Brophy was a lead instructor at the Culinary Institute, where he was remembered as the resident encyclopedia of knowledge, with offbeat sense of humor and creative approach to teaching.
The quirky professor.
Mm-hmm. The day after her husband's death, Nancy posted an update to Facebook.
Uh-huh.
She said, "I have sad news
Just
to
murdered
relate."
my husband, LOL.
Lol. LinkedIn, or like what's that? That Foursquare. checked in. Murder site
Crime scene.
with a peace sign selfie. So she wrote, "I have sad news to relate. My husband and best friend, Chef Dan Brophy, was killed yesterday morning. For those of you who are close to me and feel this deserved a phone call, you are right. But I'm struggling to make sense of everything right now," she wrote. "While I appreciate all of your loving responses, I am overwhelmed. Please save phone calls for a few days until I can function." But a neighbor, Don McConnell, told the Oregonian, almost did it again, of an odd interaction with the widow. "She never showed any signs of being upset or sad," McConnell said. "I would say she had an air of relief, like it was almost a godsend." He asked whether the police had been keeping her updated, and she said, "No, I'm a suspect," without emotion,
Oh my god.
says McConnell. The news was a jolt to others. Her mother apparently was rather shocked, but was quoted as saying, "We are not making any statements," which is funny to me.
That's a statement. Gotcha.
Yep.
Yeah.
No comment is a comment.
Yeah, so it's an interesting little thing. The article does make a point to say she's wearing a blue jumpsuit, so I'm sure she hates that.
Right, yeah. Well, at least it's not
It's
orange.
blue. It's not orange.
Yeah.
So
Not
if
orange.
blue is her
That's
color,
something.
Yeah.
I guess that's
Then
fine.
she might still be thriving.
Yeah. So yeah, that's that one. If you plan on killing somebody, don't write articles
I guess
about
don't
how to
take her
kill
advice,
someone
really.
killing
Like,
people.
she didn't get away with it, so, like, don't take her advice.
Yeah.
Read her article, maybe, but, like...
I wonder if that was the thing. She wrote the article and she's like, I've never actually done this before, so I don't think anyone's going to take me seriously. Let's do this to add some credibility to my own article. All right, so we're going to go on to... I've got a couple Canadian stories I've just realized. Where this one is titled, "There's No Stopping Toronto's Uber Raccoon."
Uber raccoon?
Uber Raccoon. Because apparently, and I didn't know this actually before I read this article, Toronto has been called the raccoon capital of the world.
Huh.
All right, well,
The
I'll see you
trash
guys later.
pandas, as they're possibly affectionately known, have been particularly adept at getting into Toronto's garbage bins. So much so that the city of Toronto had to spend 31 million Canadian dollars on raccoon-resistant organic green-colored waste bins in 2016. It was the latest assault in what Canadian media have called a raccoon war.
Oh man, I love
Oh,
raccoons.
man, I hope it doesn't turn out like Australia's emu war.
So the Toronto Star recently published a 6,000-word investigation on the bin battle. They said, "It began in January when I got a message from a friend saying the new green bins have eliminated the raccoon population in Toronto. This friend hadn't seen the family of raccoons that had been living in his yard," says Amy Dempsey, who also tells NPR's Lulu Garcia Navarro on Weekend Edition that she reached out to animal behaviorist and raccoon expert, that's such a title,
Yeah.
Suzanne McDonald, who had been hearing the same concerns from locals, worried about the possibility that the city's very fat raccoons would starve. Just take a minute.
I'm sure they'll be fine.
Just take a minute. We want them out of our garbage bins, but
but
we're
we don't
worried
want
about
them
their
to
well-being.
die. Listen, what they're going to do is they're just going to be like, fuck, they figured out that we can get into their shit. All right, let's look elsewhere. They're raccoons. They're crafty.
Okay, so she had been measuring and weighing dead raccoons since about a year before the green bin rollout to see whether their body mass index had changed, which anyone in the fitness industry knows the BMI is a terrible method to do that. So
I did not know
Anyways.
this because I'm not in the fitness realm at all.
So like
It's useless.
Okay.
yeah, I don't know exactly how to properly describe it other than it's like it takes people from like very different builds and lifestyles and all kinds of stuff like that and then treats them like the same thing and is like, now if you're over this line then you're probably using steroids, and if you're under this line, well, you're probably natural, that kind of stuff. That's how it's been normally used in the fitness industry, is to try and call out people who use steroids, but it doesn't actually work because taller people skew the results because they, by definition, almost have a higher weight to begin with. So it's, yeah. Anyways, so she's testing raccoons for steroids. Back to the story. All right. So McDonald wasn't able to initially say the raccoons were losing weight, but they're not starving to death, that's for sure, she told Dempsey. The bins, as Dempsey writes, features a rotating handle on the lid that connects to a disc on the inside, which, when the lid is shut, fashions into a made-in-Germany gravity lock. I don't know why the made-in-Germany part's...
Well, German engineering, man.
Yeah, so I guess maybe it is. Maybe it is there specifically to say this is some quality shit.
Yeah. Germany's like, oh, you have raccoons. Not for long.
Yeah. You can open the bins by turning the circular latch or by turning the bins upside down to 110 degrees, which triggers the release of the gravity lock. The gravity lock is there to let a robotic arm on garbage trucks open the bins. Raccoons weren't able to open the bins in tests that McDonald ran because they don't have opposable thumbs, but somehow raccoons kept getting into some people's trash cans, including those of Dempsey and her neighbor. This is where they say, was it an Uber raccoon?
I forgot about the Uber raccoon.
Yeah.
It's actually a Lyft raccoon. It's much more prevalent in Toronto.
I imagine meetings led by genius raccoons like ours who had successfully broken into green bins and now enjoyed prestige in the raccoon community. She writes.
They're all sitting at a conference table. Gentlemen, Operation Trash Bin has been a success.
Jerry, get the plans.
just
And it's like the
imagining,
Death Star
like-
meeting now. And
Right.
it's like, this is how we gotta get to the thermal exhaust before.
Have you ever seen that one? Oh, of course you have. That comic where they're like sitting in a boardroom and the boss like wants
Yes.
an idea and someone gives a dumb one and then the guy gives a smart one and they throw the smart guy out the window.
Yeah. Have you seen
But
the
they
one where
just
it's
throw
Apple?
They throw the Uber raccoon out the window and he's like, "Fuck you guys! I'll open the trash cans myself."
City officials and a representative from the garbage can maker blamed faulty or broken bins for the break-ins. Where
Definitely
they
not
told,
an Uber wreck.
yeah, well, they told Dempsey
For
that
sure.
the latches can become loose over time. The allegedly faulty bin got replaced with a new one. Then the raccoons got into the second bin, and the city came back and said, "Well, actually, we think there might have been something wrong with the second bin that you've had too." So it's great. There's videos linked in this article if you want to look them up. Dempsey sets up a camera to like capture the raccoons breaking into her bins, and in the video the raccoon just climbs on the bin real quick, just pulls it down, looks dead into the camera, and then goes back to it and just opens the lid up.
Damn, it feels
And then
good
the
to
other
be a
raccoons
gangster.
just jump into the thing, and it looks back at the camera again. It's like, you can't stop me. So yeah, which is great because this is not like a common thing. Like, this is like the only one of, I think they said 24 related complaints out of nearly 500,000 bins.
Oh wow.
So it's literally just
So the
this
raccoons
raccoon.
are targeting these
It's
people.
this one raccoon and its gang
In
going
this, like,
around
area.
breaking into the bins, and none of the other it's like, this isn't like just a manufacturing issue. Actually, like the bins actually work. It's just this one raccoon
Figured
and
it
its
out.
gang
Got a
have
new
figured
bin,
out
eh?
how to do it.
Where's Jimmy the Key?
Yeah, because it's hilarious. Because in the video, there's like 3 or 4 raccoons waiting for the first raccoon to break open the bin. And as soon as it opens up, they all scurry down and get inside, and the What up? And it goes inside the bin.
Ain't a bin been invented that can keep me out.
So yeah, I thought that was really cool. All right, the last story I've got is one that I'm just gonna gloss over real quick because it's mostly video.
Oh, okay, this is that one.
Just I saw the headline and I was like, this has got to be one of the greatest things I think I've ever read in my life. The headline is, "Why did an octopus wielding seal slap a kayaker in the face?" So
hold on. So the seal.
There's a seal. All right,
Is
so
brandishing an octopus
there's
as a
pair of
weapon.
friends. There's a group of friends. They were paddling off the coast of Kaikoura, which is near New Zealand.
Okay.
It's near New Zealand's South Island. They were kayaking out there, and one of them starts up a video because there was a sea lion. Oh, like it says seal, but later on in the article, a zoologist or something, I assume, someone who's or a marine biologist. I think.
There you go.
Probably. I don't remember their exact title, but someone who knows a lot about sea critters was like, "That's actually a sea lion." And I was like, semantics. But there actually is a difference between seals and sea lions.
I actually did not know that.
There actually is a difference. So
I think this is a Wolverine situation.
If you don't shut up.
I thought that seal and sea lion
we're interchangeable.
Turns
out they're not. So, anyways, in the video, they started the video because there was a sea lion swimming around with them, like just following them around, just like, "Hey, look at our little buddy." Then,
adorable.
Then all of a sudden, it dives. It comes back and throws an octopus across the boat.
Well, I mean, when you're a seal, you got very limited entertainment
and it
choices.
hits one of the guys in the face, and it's really funny. So yeah, that's basically what happens in this video. It's pretty hilarious. You should go watch it, because then the rest of the article goes into a whole bunch of different stuff about why did the seal do this? What was he was like? Well,
It's like
actually,
when
it's a sea
your cat-
lion, so there's very
It's like when
interesting
your
reasons.
cat goes and kills a bird, and then
Oh yeah,
brings it
because
to
like
you.
I guess sea lions actually do have a habit of like playing with their food, kind of thing. But in the
Gotcha.
case of an octopus, there's actually a functional reason for it, because they don't have like sharp teeth at all. They have like ground down teeth, so they can hold on to shit, but they can't really
Tear through
they
it.
can't really tear. So when they throw their food around, it's basically to try and break it into smaller pieces that they can manage.
Gotcha.
Oh.
I don't know
octopus
quite
is
how that would
real
work with an
tough.
octopus.
That's
too, so.
horrifying.
Yeah, I
but
don't
it
know
makes sense.
quite how that works with an octopus. But also, it might have just been playing.
Yeah.
Like,
Right.
it probably might not even have any intentions of eating the octopus.
Hey guys, I don't have like a beach ball, but like, you want to play with this octopus? Wacha!
And then the octopus
Just
is
trying to
like,
make
"What's up,
friends."
bros?" The octopus is actually the octopus's idea.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
The sea lion and the octopus are like best friends.
Best
and they're
friends,
like, look
yeah.
at those people. We can get them into a
You
game.
can hit them.
Throw me!
Yeah. So yeah,
that's fair.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Well,
That's that story.
so those are the headlines you missed, listeners. While you were busy focused on all of the important stories, that you missed out on life. This is life, and this is what you missed in 2018. These are the stories that nobody gave a shit about in 2018. So anyway, thanks guys for being on the show.
You're so welcome.
Oh well, hey, yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll be on again because you guys are on it often.
Still waiting for music
Probably
volume 2.
not.
Yeah, well, at this point, it's just never going to happen, and then that's going to become a
It's
recurring
the new
joke.
Half-Life 3.
Yeah, that's what it is. Hey, so listeners, check us out on the internet. We're on Instagram and Twitter at AntiFictionCast. You can also email us at antifictioncast@gmail.com. And we'll see you next week. Happy 2019! Woo! Yay!
Those are like the sounds of fireworks and shit. Yep. Bye-bye.